In this video, we're going to tie a fly called the rubber-legged stimulator. We're just going to start off with Tiemco 200R and some 6/0 Vivus orange thread. First thing we're going to do is tie in the tail. For that, we're going to just take some natural deer hair here and drop it in our stacker. I want to get the tips of that hair as even as we can. Well, we'll try again. It's not quite as even as I want. And I want my tail to be about quarter the length of the shank of the hook. So I just measure it out and trim my deer hair to the desired length. Then I'm going to take it, just capture it, and wrap back down the deer hair. Oh, looks like I might have made it a little too long. We'll try again here. Good news is you can always do it over again. There we are. Nice short little tail. You really don't want your tail to be too long in your stimmies. That's probably one of the most common mistakes, is too long of a tail. Then I'm going to take some copper wire. I like to use extra small, nice and fine. Doesn't add too much weight, because this is a dry fly, so we want it to float. So extra small copper wire all the way back down to the bend there. Now we're ready for our body material. You can really use whatever you want as far as dubbing goes. You can use natural dubbing, superfine dubbing. We're going to use a dubbing called Polar Dub. And we're going to we'll try a kind of a golden stone color. So we'll start with kind of a tannish golden color. We'll just get it started here, right at the back of the fly. Then we can add a little bit more dubbing as we work our way forward. I like to add it still in small amounts, little by little, add it to the thread. We're going to take it about 2/3 of the way forward here. Stop just past the halfway point of the shank of the hook here. There we are. Now we're ready for our hackle. We're going to use a brown hackle feather, or kind of a grizzly-ish brown. We want to slightly undersize this hackle. So I'm just going to take a little brown hackle feather here. It's going to be smaller than a hackle feather you would normally use for this size of a fly. Reason why, it's just the body hackle feather, not the head. So we're just going to take a small little brown hackle feather, if I can get it to cooperate with me here. Tie it in, and we're going to take it and wrap it around the body of the fly. We're going to take it all the way back here to the back, where I can then capture it with my fine copper wire here. I want to make sure that I trap as few of these fibers as possible, so I'll kind of wiggle the wire as I wrap forward. I'm going to do one wrap per wrap of the hackle that I made. And once I get up here to the head, I can capture that wire and spiral it out of there. And I can trim the tip of the hackle feather out of here, trim any trapped fibers. Then I'll lay down a couple wraps right up against that hackle. Now we're ready for the wing. For that I'm going to use natural deer hair again. More generous clump this time though, probably 70 or so fibers. Again, drop it in your hair stacker. Really make sure you get the tips nice and even. Then I want that wing to be just a little longer than the body, so I just kind of roughly measure it out, trim the deer hair to the length that I want, and then just grab it all at once with a nice loose wrap, then pull down, wrap through it several times, and still holding on to the deer hair. If you lose a couple fibers, not a big deal. You're going to wrap back up onto it with a fairly loose wrap, not too tight, and you'll just kind of gradually tighten down. That'll really help keep that deer hair from flaring too much. Because if you pull too tight, you'll flare that deer hair and it'll just kind of be one big giant mohawk. So you got to be careful not to flare it too much. Trick is really holding it down tight and kind of softer wraps as you get back towards the back here. There we are. Then we can build a little bit of a transition here from our deer hair head to the front of our hook. So we'll just take a few wraps, just kind of build a nice gradual transition. And I'll take it all the way to the top again. Now at this point we're ready to tie in the hackle for the head. For that we're going to use some grizzly hackle. We're going to slightly oversize this hackle compared to the body hackle. So I want it larger than that body. So I just take that hackle and I'm going to tie it in right up by the head here. Trim it out of there. Now we're ready for our legs. For this I'm going to just use some variegated or barred rubber leg material. I'm going to take it all the way up to the wing. I'm just going to tie it in on each side. Hardest part is just getting it started. There we go. Oop. Try again. There we are. And we'll do the same thing on my side here. Just like so. Now we're ready for our body dubbing. For this, let's use a little bit of red today. All fish like red, right? So we'll just take a little bit of that dubbing, same dubbing we used for the body, and take a little bit of the red. And I'll just kind of dub all along and around those rubber legs. Kind of pulling them out of the way when I need to. Just a little more to finish it off here. Maybe a smidgen more. Here we are. And we're ready to take our hackle. We're going to take a wrap, put it right in between the rubber legs, and I'll lift the rubber legs out of the way. Spiral a few more wraps forward here, one right in front of the other. Trick is to just kind of ignore the rubber legs are there and let them kind of just flail about, and just kind of go with the flow without trapping them. Trim out the excess. Pull all your rubber legs out of the way, and you can whip finish. And you can trim your rubber legs. I like to kind of trim them all at once. So I'll just pull them all down kind of out of the way. I'll make one trim. I like them to reach just past the back. You can actually then trim the front ones just a smidgen shorter. Just like so. And it'll sit just on top of the water with those legs spread straight out. And if you have any trapped fibers, you can pluck them or cut them or do whatever you got to do to kind of get in there and get them out of there. And that's all there is to a rubber-legged stimmy. Rubber-leg stimulator. Great fly out in the west. Looks like a little hopper stonefly. I'd say this is kind of a golden stone color. Great fly out here in the west. Good attractor pattern. As the rubber-leg stimulator.